A homesteader is someone who uses their home and their land and their resources to live more self-sufficiently and to be productive. It doesn't say how much land, right? So you can have your home, the very home that you live in right now, be as self-sufficient and productive as you want it to be. If you can have a dog, you can have a chicken. So I'm going to share with you 5 things that I have implemented in my life to live more like a homesteader, to live that homesteading lifestyle without having any land at all. There are things that you can do in your home, no matter whether you live in an apartment, a townhouse, a suburb, or a small piece of land. There are things that you can do right now, some skills that you can learn to start implementing that homesteading lifestyle that maybe you're striving for. Number 1, treat your kitchen like it's a farm homesteading kitchen. So one of the very first things that you can do is get a wheat grinder and get some wheat berries. They're very inexpensive and they can store for years and years as long as they're kept in an airtight, dry storage space and no bugs can get into them. They can store forever, almost. I will post down below the wheat grinder that I have. It's an attachment that just goes right onto my KitchenAid, and that makes it super useful. I can just put it right up there. It's not huge, it doesn't take up a lot of space, and I can grind my own wheat, I can grind my own corn flour, any type of grain. And if you can grind your own wheat, you can make so many things. Sourdough just being one of them, but you can start making your own pancakes from scratch, your own biscuits and breads and cakes and all those things. So just start by grinding your own wheat and enjoying the self-sufficiency of having that on hand and not needing to go to the store to buy flour all the time. And secondly, the health benefits of having your own ground wheat. You can actually start your own sourdough starter from scratch at home with just flour and water. Feel free to ask me any questions about sourdough down in the comments below. You can also source sourdough starters almost anywhere. You can buy them online. I recommend getting it from a friend. It's probably the best. Someone who has an established, mature sourdough. I think we all learned when stores and resources started shutting down and yeast was hard to get your hands on. Sourdough was a great source of being able to make bread without having to rely on a store. So start learning how to cook foods from scratch, making things in the home in a more self-sufficient way. Strongly suggest just taking it one simple step at a time, breaking things down to manageable goals. Don't look at cooking from scratch as in, oh, I need to be fermenting, baking, making all these things. Just take one little thing, choose a goal. Maybe this year you just don't want to buy pancake mix, but just start out with one simple step. One thing for me is I want to figure out how to do fermenting this year. So just start one thing at a time. Take on maybe one monthly goal, a yearly goal, whatever it is, but soon you're going to find that you're gaining these skills over time in preparation for becoming more self-sufficient, or in preparation to buying that piece of land or whatever your goal is. Jess from Refuge and Roots always says, turn your waiting room into your classroom. Wherever you are in your journey, you don't have to wait to learn homesteading skills. There are simple skills that you can learn right now. Start by setting some goals, okay? The second thing I would say is to start a garden. Now, hold on, before you shut this video down and say, I don't have space to start a garden, I don't there's so many excuses. You can start with a pot. You can start with planters. You can start just by getting some gardening books and learning the basics of gardening. I will tell you that one of the very first gardens we had was actually in a storage container. It was about 3 by 1 foot, so it was a long container, probably about 2 feet deep. We filled it with potting soil, we stuck some seeds in it, we put some draining holes in there, and and we were living in Wyoming, which has a very short growing season. So we picked Christmas lights. We taped Christmas lights onto the lid of this container box, and we put it onto this container. We put the seeds in, we watered them, and at nighttime we would put the Christmas lights lid on to keep it from freezing. And you know what? Was it successful? Not really. We had to start somewhere. That was several years ago. And since then, our garden has looked different along the way. We figured out what we could grow where we were, and that was mostly summer squash. And so we grew a lot of zucchini and summer squash and ate a lot of zoodles. And it made us feel like rock star gardeners because we actually could get something to grow in that really harsh climate. But my point is, no matter where you live, whether you live in a harsh climate or a tropical climate, or in your grandma's basement, or out on an apartment with a balcony, you can get a pot, a container box, put some holes in it, some good soil, and put your seeds in there and just start the journey of gardening. It is a long learning process that we are still learning. We learn something new all the time. Okay, so the third thing on my list, number 3, is backyard chickens. Now, I know this isn't going to apply to everyone. Not everyone can have chickens in their suburb, or definitely not in their apartment. But if this is something that your space allows, where legally you can have this in your neighborhood, you can start by having backyard chickens. This was one of our first steps. We had backyard chickens in our suburban neighborhood home, and it was an amazing experience. You know, it was a great place to start by dipping your toes into homesteading or having livestock at all. The biggest benefit of having your own backyard chickens is enjoying the eggs. And you know, those chickens kind of become little pets. You learn how to take care of them. You learn what you do. You learn what you should not do. You learn about predators, as in backyard dogs. And you don't have to have a lot of chickens. We started out with a really small chicken coop that we got on classifieds, Facebook classifieds. Having backyard chickens might also tell you a little bit about yourself. Maybe you love having chickens, maybe you don't love it having chickens. You learn what kind of breeds you like, and there's so many things that you can learn by just digging in, getting a few chickens. You don't need a lot of them, and seeing the process. But I think you'd be surprised how easy it is to have backyard chickens. If you can have a dog, you can have a chicken. They take way less work, I can honestly tell you. They don't need to be played with. They don't need to be interacted with. They just need food and water and shelter. That's it. Easy. The fourth thing on my list is sourcing farm foods from local farmers. That's something you can totally do in your suburban home. Last year, we bought some beef from a farmer. We bought a quarter of a cow. It was the best year of meat I have ever had. We had a freezer full of elk, some deer, and a quarter of beef. It was superb. It was delicious. So reach out to your local farmers, ask some friends, look online, look on Facebook groups. See where you can maybe buy a beef, buy a quarter of beef, a half a beef, whatever works for you. You can buy pork, you can buy chicken. There are places that you can go to source food without having a farm and without raising your own animals. And even if you did have a farm, sometimes you don't want to butcher your own chickens, and so you go buy them from the farmer. You can also get tons of fruits and vegetables from local farmers in your area. Right in Portland, Oregon, where I grew up, my mom still orders a bunch of apples, a bunch of peaches, strawberries, all the beautiful things around Oregon. She orders from a local farmer. She gets big boxes of tomatoes and all these good things every year, and she cans up a bunch of salsa and a bunch of jams. So you really don't have to grow apples. You don't have to grow a whole patch of strawberries. You might want to, but you don't have to. You can go and buy a big lug of strawberries, or maybe go to a U-Pick farm and you're living like you're on the farm, right? One thing that I'm really enjoying right now and really applying that, making my waiting room a classroom, is getting fresh cow's milk from a farmer. So every week we go pick up 4 gallons of milk. And with this 4 gallons of raw milk, we make butter, we make yogurt. I'm trying my hand at cheeses. And so someday I really think that we might get a cow. I said someday because I know that is, for me, a big step, is getting a dairy cow, but it's also a goal or something that we want to do. But instead of getting the dairy cow right now and going through the pains of growth and all the learning, I want to learn what to do with raw milk. I want to know if I like raw milk. I want to know what the benefits are of having raw cow's milk in my home and how my family reacts to it and what to do with it every day before I get the cow. I tell you, that takes a big load of stress off. This is a great place to start if you want to start making your own dairy products at home. You don't have to have a cow and you don't have to have a goat. You just have to have a friend. And you can start learning how to make dairy products in your home today. The 5th and final thing on my list is to start preserving your own foods now. I've talked about how you can get bushels and boxes of tomatoes and apples and berries, and going to farmers markets, you can get tons of beans and all sorts of vegetables. You can start preserving those foods now. You can start by fermenting and canning, right? And dehydrating, and just seeing what methods work for you, and just learning how to store food, so that someday when you want to grow a field of corn, or when you want to grow a bunch of strawberries or tomatoes or whatever it is, you're going to have that knowledge built up and some of that learning curve already over, so you can have the confidence to go and grow your own food. You know how to preserve it. Let me share with you some of my favorite books that I have been using. So a long time ago, my grandma gave me this Ball Blue Book Guide to Preserving. She gave me this when I first got married, and I was like, thanks, Grandma, canning, woohoo. But you know what? I've used this book a lot, and I'm so grateful for it. So Grandma was really smart. She had some wisdom. And there are so many things in having a canning guide, okay? And learning how to do these. When it comes to preserving food, you want to follow the book when it comes to canning, okay? There are so many health guidelines and things that you need to do to prevent botulism and other bacteria. You don't need to be afraid, but you do need to be knowledgeable, and you need to have done some homework and some research. So having some sort of guide to go to look through is a great idea. I didn't mention soap making, but soap making and learning how to make some of your own products could also go to the list of just learning some self-sufficient skills and living more like a homesteader. You could do that with goat's milk, or you could do that with tallow, or you could just even buy oils from Amazon. I've done that as well, and make your own soaps. It's another great way to just start dipping your toes into the learning process of where you want to be, right? Sometimes you have to really think backwards. Where do I want to be in 5 years? And what kind of lifestyle do I eventually want to have? And where can I start now? But if you don't start now, then you're never going to get to your goal in 5 years or 3 years or wherever it is without beginning some simple steps, right? Ago, we had a farming dream that was planted deep inside, and we had that desire to grow things, to learn things. We lived really far away from a grocery store, And it was in that time that I realized, well, what if I ran out of soap? I don't even know how to make soap. What if I ran out of this? What if I ran out of that? I have no idea where that comes from. And that desire to really push away from the grocery store and to know how to actually do some of these things myself, and just really take kind of the control and power back into our lives instead of giving it so much to society and the grocery store, which makes everything so easy for us, but it also takes that empowerment away from us, where we don't know how to do some of these things ourselves. So that journey to just really take back that knowledge and ability, the ability to self-sustain and live how we want to live. So more than anything, I just want to encourage you that no matter where you are in your journey, whatever stage you are in life and along that dream, I want to encourage you to start today to wake up inside and to put your hand to the wheel, so to speak. Start turning those wheels and start growing your own food, start growing your own skills. And I'm just here cheering you on that you can do it. There are more dreams than we can count, more ideas than we can count that we want to do out here. This is the biggest adventure of our lives. Everyone has their own adventure, and this is ours. So I hope that you'll stick around and join us. And thanks for being here today, and I'll catch you next time. Love you lots.
Hey boys, you guys are funny. Hey, where are we at, guys?
The desert.
It's like the desert.